Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by A.G. Hines Company. Tennessee's baseball team has been top of the world this year, but it's been a fast rise these last couple of seasons. A.G. Hines Company, they've been East Tennessee's best source of building materials and tools for more than 100 years. 100 years. For a do-it-yourself project, start the journey at A.G. Hines Company, aghines.com to learn more. You'll love them. All right, let's go back to Friday night. Vols got clubbed early and often, and ultimately, for all the complaining about it, the ump's decision to toss Drew Gilbert was not the reason Tennessee lost. It was almost like, look over here. Let's not look at the fact we lost. Look at the ump deal. It's like you were down 8-1. I mean, let's calm down on the ump toss. But Gilbert appeared to drop a couple of F-bombs right in the ump's face after he'd already been warned about that stuff, according to the ump. And when they put out a statement, I saw people saying, who puts out a statement? Why are they putting out the statement? It's like everything's bad. The statement was pretty clear. We always want a statement. Here's the statement, right. And they made it clear. My question is, there were also people saying that the umps baited him, that they wanted to throw him out. I said a month or two ago on this show that some of the antics, at some point, you may get some tough guy ump who's not going to put up with it and has a shorter fuse. So I throw to you. Is the issue Drew Gilbert running his mouth and saying the magic words that typically, if you say them the wrong ump, you're gone? Was it these umps are out to get the balls? Or was it maybe this guy had a little shorter fuse because he's tired of some of their stuff? Where are you on this?
I'm 100% that's Drew Gilbert. Look, what umpire wouldn't kick you out if you dropped 2 F-bombs? He deserved
After
it.
a warning, too.
So, yeah, I mean, so the umpire that wasn't baiting him, if Gilbert doesn't say anything, he's still in the game. But you can't turn around and do what he did. So this is on Drew Gilbert, which also was very, in my opinion, selfish on his part. You're trying to get to Omaha and you pull a stunt like that. That's on Gilbert. This isn't the umpires.
He was apparently yelling stuff from the outfield.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Which is what the ump warned him about.
Yeah.
It's like, look, you can yell at your own dugout. Don't yell at the ump.
Right.
Don't yell at the other team.
That's exactly right.
And then he gets in the batter's box 2 innings later and lets him have it.
And the crew chief did that. The crew chief said Drew Gilbert from center field was yelling in about balls and strikes, and they told him, if you're going to yell something, yell towards your team, yell towards your dugout. That was the warning, and he said, yeah, no, I kind of go over the top sometimes. So, I mean, but you can't do that. Here's what happens, John. I think there are some plate umpires that are kind of tired of Tennessee's antics. The pitch that was in question was clearly low, and it was outside, it looked like.
Yeah, it was ball.
So, yeah, it was ball.
But you get bad calls in baseball.
Exactly. That's part of it. But you just that's why, Jimmy, when we were kind of had this conversation before on the show, I said, why can't Tennessee just tone it down some? Because the umpires are hearing this stuff, and they're hearing it from fans. They're hearing it from players. And it's human nature for some of them, when they get a chance behind the plate, to take it out on you.
Well, and there's a feeling out there that, well, you shouldn't have a thin-skinned ump, or you shouldn't have an ump with a short fuse. Well, but that's not how the world works. So you have to know, I would think, I don't want to put this in this guy's hands because he might be one of these short fuse guys. He might be somebody that's got a bone to pick. So I have to sit here and eat it, and I'll mumble, and then I'll go into the dugout and cuss to all my buddies.
Exactly.
But I'm not going to cuss to him because this guy ultimately has more power in this game than I do. I can't eject the ump. The ump can eject me. That would be what I would. One thing that I thought was strange was Tony Vitello's comments after the game talking about Drew Gilbert, where he talked about he plays with so much emotion and sometimes it's hard to control it sometimes. And he made the comment that, I told an ump last year that I wish I could be on the field and I'd love to play with this guy, but I can't control him. Okay, there's a fine line. He likes Vitello. I think they take after him, and that is, I'm not going to rein you guys in. If this is what you need to go at them, go at them. And fans love it. But there's also the other side that, isn't there a time where you have to be able to rein it in? I mean, you don't want to be the guy who's just a stick in the mud who doesn't let them do anything and is an old grump. At the same time, I wouldn't want to hire John Blutarski from Animal House as my coach if he's not going to. So there has to be some line, and I'm not saying Vitello is Bluto. There has to be some line, though, between let it all hang out, I can't control them, what do you want me to do, and, hey, you smiled, no smiling. I just thought
Yeah.
the Vitello comment was a little worrisome to me.
I go back decades in the NFL with the Oakland Raiders, the most penalized team in the NFL, back when they were really good, back when they were kind of wild, back when they had,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Matusak and the Stork and all these guys.
Ben Davidson.
Ben Davis.
Even after they became bad, they were still the most penalized team in the NFL. And you're telling me that a bad Oakland team, now a Las Vegas team, held more, jumped off sides more personal fouls. They had a reputation. So when the Raiders come to town, the refs are going to call more penalties on the Raiders because they got a reputation dating back to the 80s and the 70s.
Fair.
You get a reputation, your reputation's going to follow you. If he had not been warned and he drops something and they toss him, okay, I'm with you. But once you look the ump looks you in the eye and says, don't do that again, and you do it again, you've earned it.
I don't know an ump that wouldn't have tossed
Well, there was
him.
an Tennessee fans immediately found on Twitter that night, Texas A&M Louisville kid in that game says that was an effing awful call. Doesn't get run. Now,
Maybe he got warned.
maybe he got
got
warned right
lucky.
there. Maybe he hadn't been warned before. Maybe he didn't have that reputation coming
Maybe
into
that's
the
the
game.
first time he'd cussed it in his entire life.
Maybe you just didn't get the right ump on the right day. But
Exactly.
again, that goes back to don't put it in the rump in the rump's
You
hands.
get- it's umpire
Don't put it in
discretion.
the ump's rump or the ump's hand. So,
an ump's ump, they
although
got it.
people wanted to put their foot in the ump's rump. All
And
right.
then what did that lead to, John? And I know you wanted to talk.
Yeah, I'm trying to move on here. But Go ahead.
Right, the Frank Anderson thing.
Yeah,
The
there we
Drew Gilbert led directly to Frank Anderson, and to me, that's even more inexcusable for your pitching coach to come charging out of the dugout, and you know that's
You
an
ran
automatic.
past Vitello to get out
Yes,
there.
I mean, and then you're like, oh no, what did I just do? It's what he did.
But here's the thing with him. I mean, he's still out. And if they make it to Omaha, he'll be out the first game there
Correct.
because he'd been suspended earlier in the year. I saw people saying, no, that's exactly what you need from the coach. He was taking up for his player, and you've got to do that.
No.
I think that's a situational thing again. And in that situation, super regional, I don't think it's wise for your assistant to go running out.
For your pitching
Well,
coach.
We're
Vitello
making
take
too many
up for the
people
player.
mad right now.
I know,
They're just
but it's
mad
true.
that
So
we're
let
here.
Vitello take up for the player. Frank doesn't need to run out there.
Can't have him tossed either.
And Tony was standing so far
But it's
away.
okay for him to run out there. It's
Well,
not
he's
for-
got to
but that's true.
ask permission. He's got to ask permission. That's why he was keeping his distance, and he was confused. He didn't know who was thrown out at first.
All right.
Who's on first?
Let's move on. Let's get back to talking about umps' hands instead of umps' rumps. Yesterday's game, where we talked Friday, we talked about today's game. Let's talk about yesterday's game where Chase Dolander saved the season. His pitching was great. Tennessee's pitching hasn't been great once we got into the postseason. We'll show you some numbers yet. Are the guys losing any faith in Tennessee's pitching here in the postseason? Come on back on the Sports Source.